Can you hear me now? It was all this time without sound, really? Oh my god, really? Okay, I was asking right in the beginning if technically everything's alright, and nobody said anything, so I was thinking it's it's good. Alright. Yeah, with this, yes, okay. Yeah, with the straight picture, yeah. So it seems like we're having some bitrate issues here. Um, but not sure what I'm supposed to do here now, because it's already set to the best bitrate. So, and it kind of recovers every once in a while, it then goes down. So hopefully there's not a lot happening with the pictures. So hopefully every once in a while I'll try to keep the moving of the pictures as minimal as possible, so it can recover all the time. Important is just that the sound is all right. So hopefully the sound works now. Just a little recap of what we just heard. I was saying that while this real estate in Germany series is going right now on YouTube, but it will take a while, I want to give you a short overview of things, so you can already start working towards your first successful purchase if you choose to do so. So we will have the strategic professional advice to your first successful purchase. No product pitching, none of this. And then with the disclaimer, this is just education and entertainment. All right? Please don't make any financial decisions based on what you hear or see today. Now let's come to your questions. So the question is always that probably the question we get asked a lot right now is buying real estate a good idea right now, or is it a bubble? Shall I pass away? Or if I already have real estate, should I sell it? We'll see. We'll see in a minute. This is the second most popular question, probably. What is the best investment? What is the best pension? What is the best property? What is the best bank to finance with? If you've seen some of the videos on this channel already, you know my answer. It depends, but we will come close to maybe find your best property for your financial situation. We will talk about common mistakes and also some tips along the way, because mistakes in real estate can be pretty expensive, right? When we're talking about these 6-digit numbers. So you better not do them. And lastly, you guys live the expat lifestyle. So the question is, what if you leave Germany again? What are your options? What are you supposed to do? If you have a property for investment or for self-use, do you sell it? Do you keep it? What can you do? Will this stream be available after it ends? I need to leave halfway through. Sure. So hopefully everything goes smooth now, and then I can also keep the VOD online. If not, we will have this this live stream one more time this year. And then I have enough time to fix the internet connection. All right, let's come to the point why you're all here today. The 6 steps to buying any property, a house, a flat, self-use, investment, whatever. If you understood this process once, then everything after that is easy, right? We just need to talk about it and understand it once, and then everything will be fine. And it starts with step 1. You guys know that there's something before you can already start investing. You know that there's something to take care of, right? And I call this make the decision, kind of what to buy, when to buy, how much to buy, etc. And where to buy, maybe also. So it starts with this. Let me move myself here. So question is, that's been going on around the news now so much. Everybody's talking about it. There's so much noise now saying that German real estate is a bubble. Why? Because prices have increased a lot. I get it. I see these price increases too, and it's true. They multiplied within a very short amount of time. And this leads everybody to think it's a bubble. But the question is, why did it increase? And how much did it increase? It could have been undervalued before, and now it's at fair value. Not saying it is, but it could be. For me, there's not one German real estate market. For me, for example, there's like the top 7 or the top 10, right? So Munich, Frankfurt, Berlin, Hamburg, Cologne, Düsseldorf, Stuttgart, and are they expensive? Yes. Are they maybe too expensive? Maybe. But what we're gonna see shortly is that the demand for properties is still there. And this is a major factor why it cannot be a bubble in itself. And there's also still very, very good deals aside from these big cities, very, very good deals available. And you'll see the long version in 3 weeks, I think, 3 weeks from now. You should also think about the benefits of real estate, which are pretty obvious, right? You get a bank loan with 1% interest rate maybe right now, maybe less. If you have a solid financial situation, if you use a bank credit, right? Then it is a pretty good investment, right? But there's also risks, and you should be aware about the risks too, because everything that has a benefit also has a risk. If you don't like risk, then you must be content, at least here in the euro area, with 0% interest rate right now. Luckily, there's clever solutions for all the risks. So if you know the risks, and you work with professional partners who know how to minimize risk, not zero risk, but minimize risks, like a rent pool, for example, is becoming pretty popular. So the worst case is always that you buy an apartment as an investment in this case, and there's no tenant, or the tenant doesn't pay. So many property managers right now offer something like a rent pool, that the pool of the whole house is pooled into one account and then paid out accordingly to your share of the whole house. So your risk actually of having zero rental income is virtually impossible. So you will always be able to pay the bank. You should really think of when you want to buy and how much you want to buy, and then come to the decision how to save for this real estate venture that you want to go for. You have to have, at least as a rule of thumb, 10% of equity just to cover the additional purchasing costs. So if you buy something for 100K, you need at least 10K to cover the additional purchasing costs. That's the ground book and the notary with 2%, German standard, 2% of the purchasing price. And then there's between 3.5% to 6.5% ground tax, depending on the state you want to buy. And this is a non-negotiable, right? So if you buy something in Bavaria, for example, which would be the lowest, it's 5.5%. If you buy without a real estate agent. If you buy with a real estate agent, he wants to get paid too, and they take between 3 to 6%. And these additional purchasing costs, you need to have them in cash right now, especially after the pandemic. Before that, it may have been possible to get this covered by the bank. Since the pandemic, I haven't seen it anywhere. So you need at least this, and then if you have a solid financial situation, you can get 100% of the property value financed by the bank. That's possible, and most of the time the ideal case scenario. And Last thing, there's also some preparations you need to do that are non-monetary, which is, for example, you need a good Schufa score. Schufa is the German credit agency. If you wonder what your Schufa score is, what to avoid and what to do, here's 3 videos about this. But I speak to so many people who try to get to buy real estate here and tell me they can't get a bank credit. And then we get a Schufa, we ask Schufa about their credit score, and then we know why they're not getting a credit, because they ruined their Schufa score. No good Schufa, no credit, period. That's just it. Aside from that, do your tax declarations, that would help as well. Be out of probation period, have a long-term contract, a working contract, ideally an unlimited one, have a solid financial situation. Blue card is fine. That's also a question we get a lot. So PR is better, but blue card is fine. These are the things you really need to take care of. Next step. Now that we're ready, it's time to choose a property. And the question is, do you want to buy something or do you want to build something? And this is not an easy question, because this question goes basically hand in hand with the question, are you renting or are you renting it out, or are you buying for yourself? If you are buying it as an investment to rent it out, just buy something as standard as it gets. You don't need to find it pretty. You don't need to move in there yourself. It's just a straight up investment, right? Don't buy something fancy. Buy something very, very standard, where the likelihood of getting a tenant is as high as possible. This tip 1, and tip 2, or tip 1, in case you say yes, you want to build yourself, just be aware that it's probably gonna take 10% longer than you imagine, and it's probably gonna cost 10% more than you imagine too. You will be the absolute first case that builds in the exact same time as planned and with the exact same cost as planned. Almost never happens. After that, so what we're doing is we're looking to get a property from big decision to small decision, right? And what you hear in Germany all the time is location, 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 as this would be the only thing that matters. Here, that's better. And it's kind of true. So what we're using is, this is a Germany map from Prognos Research Institute. And you can see here the demand for properties. And in dark gray, the demand is declining. In light gray, it's basically leveled. And then from yellow to orange to red to dark red, the demand increases the more it gets red. So you can clearly see Hamburg, Berlin, you can see Frankfurt, you can see Munich, and Munich is actually, Munich down south, the perfect example that the demand is spreading from the city into the outskirts. So almost all districts outside of Munich are red already. And there's some, in the orange and in the red areas, there's some really, really good opportunities. In the dark red areas, it's pretty expensive already. Then this seems to be very, very popular in other countries other than Germany, buying deals in foreclosure, so in German Zwangsversteigerung. If you really think about doing this, be aware that you need a big upfront investment, that you basically need to show that you can afford to bid on the apartment or on the house that is for auction. And before you actually decide that you want to buy in foreclosure, go there once. I have been there a couple of times, and it's like a market. People get nuts. And like in eBay auctions, they bid and bid and bid even higher, more than the value of the property would be. So I feel it's not the best option, but if you think you can make a good deal there, why not? Go to court and see what's available. And now lastly, it's time to choose a property. And I told you, we're not doing product pitching today or property pitching today, right? Because clever investors, they never think in products, they think in strategy. And strategically, there's 5 different types of properties that all work a little different. And the real question is not which one is the best. The question is which type of property suits your financial situation the best. And these are the 5 properties. So everybody knows there's existing buildings already, right? You buy them straight up, you see them, not just on paper. You can go there, you can visit them, and usually they have a pretty good price, better than the new buildings that we come to in a minute. And it's a predictable price because you buy what you see for a specific price. And if you want to move in there yourself, you can do it immediately. Or if you want to rent it out, you maybe buy it with a tenant already. So immediate cash flow, which is not the case if you're waiting for something to finish. Problem might be that it may need renovation depending on when it was built. So back in the day, they built with some poisonous stuff, for example. So you might need a renovation, and most of the time that's not going to give you state subsidies, which is not the case in the new buildings, right? If something is built fresh, at the most modern standard, you most likely get the maximum amount of state subsidies, which is pretty nice because you can. It's possible. I've never done it. I'm always looking for the first client to do it, but it's possible that you can get a negative interest rate on your bank loan. So you have to pay them less than you got from them, which is absolutely cool, and it's possible. I calculated it, it's possible, but only with the new buildings. So that's the cool thing about it. Problem is it's gonna take long. And here's the first tip. If something finishes very, very shortly, so usually building a building here takes, 2-3 years or something. If you can buy something that will finish next month, this is a big red flag. This is a very, very big red flag. Because everything is sold off quickly here. And usually you have a 2 or 3 year waiting period. Could also be longer, could also cost more. Next is Denkmal. If you guys have been to real estate sites before and you see something like 8% return or 10% or 12% or something, all these clickbait titles, then you've probably seen Denkmal, which is basically a monument. So very old buildings. Without a doubt, they have the highest return possible. Why? Because they depreciate very fast, they are in great locations, and they offer the best tax benefits. But in order to get this, you need a really, really high income. So per person, if you're single and watching, you need at least 100K, better 150 to make this worth it. Why? Because the more you earn, the higher your tax rate is. And if you're a married couple watching, this 100K is per person. So a married couple would need 200K. Can you buy Denkmal with 50K income? Yes, you can. But then you're not getting the return that is on paper because you don't have this high of a tax rate, but you're still paying the high price, because here's the big boys playing that don't really care how much it costs, 1,000 more or 1,000 less, they don't really care. So they pay a high price, and you would pay the high price too, but you don't get the tax benefits. And the last two are everything basically like concept real estate, everything that is like buys into these mega trends. So we have like new care facilities, or something like micro apartments, which is also a big trend, or short-term living. So this, for example, is a picture of Munich. They're currently building this right now. We'll finish sometime next year, which is for travelers, for students, for people here for a work project, people looking for a flat here. So the amount of time you on average stay in this apartment is like 3 months. In both cases, very small units for a small amount of money, and high growth potential, because you buy into these mega trends of an aging population or people moving a little bit around. We'll see how it goes after the pandemic, but the real estate market here is pretty dense in Munich, and this is not going to change. And the benefit here is, in both cases, that usually you make a long-term contract with the property manager. So you're not having individual contracts with tenants as you would in the other three types. So you usually have a 20-year, 25-year contract with guaranteed rental income, which is pretty nice. On the downside, there's no self-use, right? In existing building, new buildings, or Denkmal, if you have a tenant, you can just cancel his contract and then give him some time to move out. You probably don't want to live in a care facility if you're not in need of care. So you can only resell it to investors. And you have the location and infrastructure risk. So if you buy a student apartment, which would also be a micro apartment, and then the university in 10 years is not that good anymore, there's no students coming, then you need to think of something else to do with your student apartment. All right, step 3. Now it's time to secure financing. And yes, now it's time to secure financing. Financing comes after the property. Why? Because a bank will only finance a specific property. A bank will not give out random financing statements saying, yes, we will finance basically anything. You can get this general financing statement, but that's not worth anything. So you can get a statement saying a bank would finance for you 300K or 500K, but at the end of the day, this is not worth anything. We need a specific property in order to secure our financing. And coming back to your Schufa in step 1, do not ask multiple banks. Do not run around, ask 5-6 different banks for a credit. Every time they ask Schufa for it, you will get a Schufa entry that you ask for a credit, and after you did this 5 or 6 times, you're done. You're done for at least a year, sometimes 3 years, depends what they did, because Schufa gets very suspicious if you ask for credit too often. This is a very difficult question. We get asked a lot. How much real estate can I afford? Of course, this depends on the bank. This depends on the property. This depends on your financial situation. But let me try to get this let me try to give you some 3 rules of thumb here, so you have some guidelines. So the first 2 ones are basically liquidity. So let's take your household net income and multiply it with 100. Let's say you make 2K per month net, and then multiply it by 100, which would be 200,000 euros. This is easy to get from a bank. 100 times your household net salary is easy to get from a bank. The more we go away from this 100, 105, 110, the harder and harder it gets. And it's more and more banks will drop out. So you have like 400, 450 financing partners here. You have some banks, you have some insurances, some Bausparkasse who also give out credit now. And the more we go away from the 100, the more and more banks drop out. Another rule of thumb is our 10% additional purchasing cost that we had in option in step 1. So if you have 10K in savings now and you want to use all of this for your real estate venture, then you can afford 10% of 100,000 euros. So try to go from there, try to go from your savings side and also your liquidity side. And then this is the closest answer that the closest and the most reliable answer I can give you. To help you put less of your own money into this, there's state subsidies. So a big one is KfW, which is kind of a state-owned bank, kind of. And you can get 30,000 euros from them if you basically build to their newest standard and everything. Of course, there's some rules, right? They don't give you 30K to everybody. There's some rules to this. And you can also get this money with a negative, you can get some money with a negative interest rate. So this is how I calculate it. If you have a really, really solid financial situation, it's possible that you can pay the bank less than you borrowed from them, which would be absolutely beautiful. So if you have a solid financial situation, reach out. I'll try to calculate it for you. Would be cool if one of you is the first client for us to ever do it. And for all homeowners, there's also pensions. Pensions and real estate work pretty nicely. So Riester is pension level 2. This works as equity for a home. And endowment mortgage means pensions level 3, which work both for your home and a real estate investment. And endowment mortgage means so you always have to pay the bank interest, but you can choose if you want to pay the bank the principal or if you want to put your principal in some form of savings contract. And with this, just very briefly, you can kind of game the interest rate because you can choose to have a savings contract that generates a lot more rate of return than you would have to pay the bank in interest rate. So you can kind of arbitrage the interest rate, and I calculated over the years and over the decades, could make a difference of 5 digits very, very easily. So can be worth it, especially for real estate investors. Not so much for homeowners, but for investors, it's a pretty cool tool. And lastly, if you think, no, that's way too much work up to here, then there's a video for you with the 5 alternatives to buying real physical real estate. So you can also buy it on paper or join a partnership or something, which is way less stress. If you're interested in the video, just a quick heads up. There's 4 good ones and 1 is really, really bad. 1 alternative. So don't do this. Interested to know how you would define a good financial situation. Would like to share my position. So, a good financial situation means that you definitely live below your means. So every month there's some money left. Let's say you only consume a maximum of 80% of your net salary. So if you make 1,000 euros in net salary, you only consume 800 and 200's left. And then you have at least 10% of savings already. So if you want to buy for 100K, you already have 10,000 euros somewhere saved up. And this is a major change that we've seen from the happening from the pandemic. So how banks value your financial situation. And this goes to show you that the rules can change very, very quickly. And they did. So before the pandemic, you just needed a very good income. And you were getting a credit very, very easily. Now, because of short-term work, because of some people losing their job, because of the pandemic, banks know that income can go away suddenly. We thought this was never possible because for 10 years we had a really good economy. Now we know income can go away, so they're starting to value savings a lot more. So if you really, really, really want a good interest rate, you have to have some savings already. Doesn't mean you have to give it a bank. So if you have 100K in savings now, you don't need to pay out your property in cash. You can still just cover the additional purchasing costs, but the bank says, okay, so even after all this financing is done, potentially he could pay us because he has high savings. That's very important, and it will probably, if this pandemic keeps on happening, savings will get more and more important for banks. And then what you might be interested in, if you ask this question, would be how can we calculate the cash flow and investment return? And here's always a question, why is this so late? And the answer is pretty easy. Because all these numbers that you see online, they don't mean much without knowing all the variables. We need to know how much rental income are you generating, if it's an investment, of course. How much does the property management cost? How do you need to renovate it maybe because you bought Denkmal or you bought an old building? And how are these costs tax deductible? Immediately or do you depreciate it over 50 years? What's your interest rate? How much principal do you have to pay? Do you even pay principal to the bank or do you have an endowment mortgage? What's your personal tax rate? All these different factors. So all they're needed in order to calculate your correct cash flow and investment return. Next, the taxes. Taxes are very interesting. And taxes are also very high here in Germany. And as the homeowner, you virtually have no tax benefits. I know that's pretty sad, but that's just the way that it is. The German government doesn't really care how you live. The German government cares if you provide a home for somebody else. So real estate investors get a lot of tax benefits. Their additional purchasing costs that we mentioned are 10% or could be 10%. They are tax deductible. The interest rate that you pay the bank is tax deductible. You can depreciate the apartment. Your property management is tax deductible. Your renovations are tax deductible. And all of this is tax deductible. So this is why real estate is, as an investment, a pretty exciting option. You could save a lot more in tax if you buy real estate as a company, as a German limited. We would all, as private person, would need to pay 42% tax on our real estate, on our rental income. A company only pays 15%. So we're talking about a 30% tax difference here. Not saying you should buy real estate as a company, but if you want to buy more and more, then it will be worth it because a company also costs, right? But what I'm also saying is, are you maybe a company without wanting to be one or actually knowing that you are one? I'll give you an example. Somebody reached out in a couple of weeks ago saying that the tax office, the Finanzamt, basically declared him a commercial real estate company. Why? Because he sold more than 3 of his apartments in the last year. And with this, you are automatically a company, if you want it or not. And after we calculate it correct, then it's time to compare it with stocks or ETFs or pensions or whatever, or Bitcoin or whatever you want to otherwise invest in, because now we know your individual return, and then you can decide, is this worth it? Because let's be honest, opening a brokerage account and just investing in some ETFs is a lot easier than buying real estate with all the bank credit and all the papers and everything involved. Is the return higher? Probably yes. That's why the effort is worth it. But that's not for me to decide. Your money, your life, your choice. Now, we're almost there. Now it's time to finalize the purchase. And here it's important that you have the correct order of things. Germany, as you know, has very, very strict rules. And in real estate, you need to follow these rules. Everybody needs to, because this is highly regulated by the government. And if you don't do these things in the correct order, it might cost you a lot of money, and it will definitely cost you a lot of time. So what we're preparing in our Real Estate in Germany series is the purchasing contract translated into English. Doesn't exist yet, which is pretty unfortunate, but we're working on this to translate it, to translate what a notary does here, to translate the to-dos after the notary, so you know already what's coming your way. Just a quick heads up, if you don't speak sufficient German, that one could think you understand the German contract, then you need a translator for the notary appointment, which is not a problem. Most of our clients bring their friends or a girlfriend sometime, or a boyfriend or whatever, but you need a translator. Doesn't have to be an official one though. And after the notary, you're not the legal owner yet. Everybody thinks as soon as you're done with the notary, you're the legal owner. Not yet. The notary is basically just you saying the official wish that you want to be the legal owner. So there's some things to do after the notary appointment. You are only the legal owner when you are in the ground book, and this will take at least 2 weeks after the notary appointment and 3 steps. And then when you are, it's time for the after sales. How do we make your good real estate investment a great real estate investment? And first of all, very important, insurance. I know it's not a sexy topic, but you need to have some in order to not have a big headache if your 6-digit purchase goes up in smoke. Then this is a very popular question too, if Airbnb in Germany is worth it or not. Let's just say there's no German-wide answer. Can be worth it, yes, especially if you have some in a recreational area or something. But many people after, especially if they buy with a good property manager, many people shy away from handling all the tenant stuff themselves. Because a good property manager charges maybe 20-25 euros per month for an apartment to manage it, and then you have absolutely no headache with it. They take care of everything. Then it's maybe also time to prepare a second one or a third property, right? You basically build a real estate empire from scratch. Or maybe you want to sell it again, because after 10 years, if you're not a company, after 10 years, you can sell a property tax-free. And you don't want to make any mistakes there, because one day difference can mean a lot in taxes or not. Or you want to give it to your kids. while you're still alive. Also possible. Or you leave Germany again. And the question is, what options do you have if you leave Germany? Can you keep it? Yes. Can you sell it? Yes. But if it's good, why would you? Maybe it's better to keep it. There's no general right or wrong. And these are the 6 steps, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to buy any property, just follow them. Now, also because of the mic problems, there's not enough time to go over all of this in detail. So if you are interested to buy real estate in Germany, there's every second or third week, there's a video on this YouTube channel right here explaining everything into detail. We did an investing in series Germany before with like 10 videos or 11 or something. And in all the comments, there's we want more details, we want more details. So I thought about almost 50 videos up to now explaining all these 6 steps in detail. On Friday is the bubble video if you're interested. And if you're already looking for inspiration for some properties, we don't just work with the 400 financing partners in Germany. We also work with the 50, 60 or whatever property developers who offer properties that are most of the time not available to the public. And if you're interested in, every once in a while when an exciting property appears, I'll make a video about it, also on YouTube. And there's a newsletter also under every property developer, property portrait with early access. So you get them about a week earlier. And if we can help you any further with your financial situation, feel free to reach out. We help you in everything. This was just a real estate or real estate financing today, but we help you in all topics of personal finance, except tax advice. We don't do tax advice, and we probably never will. But what we offer is personal advice focused on your goals. So if you want to reach out, feel free. And if you have some questions, I can stay on for a couple more minutes. Guten Abend, Herr Pscho. Question from Alejandra: what if you are a company? Do you have the same tax exemptions after 10 years? So perfect question. After I said that I'm not a tax advisor, as far as I'm aware, no. But disclaimer, I'm not a tax advisor. But as far as I'm concerned, you cannot sell tax-free after 10 years. Also, not saying that because of this is also something that is very popular on the internet. It's this, just create a company and buy real estate with a company and then you save 30% in tax. Yes, kind of true, kind of though. But a company always costs money, right? It's not like a company is completely for free. You have the one-time founding costs, you have the running costs, like a tax advisor and everything. So you already need, let's say, 1 million or whatever in properties to make this worth it. Of course, the more the better. But don't expect to buy something for 100,000 and then pay less, like a small apartment for 100,000 and then think, oh, we'll just create a company and this saves me 30% in taxes. No, it will probably be a minus for you because the company costs you more than the 100,000 euro apartment gives you in rental income. It would be a huge waste of money. So what you should think of before doing this company is what's your strategy really behind it. Do you want to buy 1, 2 properties, rent them out kind of as a pension? Then it's probably not worth it. Do you and maybe some other people want to start a real estate empire and buy 3, 4, 5, or 10 different apartments here, then it might be worth it. So it's a part of a bigger strategy. Well, thank you, Millennial Money Moves, for tuning in during this probably wild session, because bitrate is still jumping a lot. So I think this wasn't all smooth today, especially with the mic fail at the beginning. So thank you everyone who stayed on all this time. If there's no more questions in chat, then thank you for watching. Stay healthy, everybody, and see you on Friday with the next video of our Real Estate in Germany series. It's the bubble video. Will be pretty interesting. Take care, everybody.